Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Ashen Cast, and today we are having a look at a game played on the PB. It is the 2v2 mode, and this is Svag Zeroth here playing some, well, in this case, Zeroth for us, and the new mode is going to come out somewhat at some point in June, which is going to be very interesting. And so far, it seems like it is very, very well picked up by the community. I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I worry about in this video, as I have spent quite a bit of time already playing it, and I have kind of built my opinion on it. And of course, we are going to see some gameplay here from the man, the myth, the legend himself. I unfortunately am too dog water to really have anything interesting to show you guys, but from myself. But we are here, and so Zeroth, of course, is a mage. Mages have some very interesting enchantments here. The augments in general are one of the topics that I find a little bit questionable, but they do have some interesting options, and yeah, we will talk about this in a bit. But first, let's have a little introduction. So, of course, it is 2v2v2v2. You play versus 3 other teams of 2 players, and you have a ban phase in which you see the bans immediately, which is very nice. Generally, if you're just jumping into the mode, ban something like the Heimerdinger, maybe a Shaco or Kai'Sa if you're not intending to play her. Those definitely right now in the meta. And we have these augments, and these augments, they are a little bit weird right now, and there are some things that I think are just completely broken, because these augments, I think they're supposed to be kind of catered towards your champion, right? So mages get mage augments and so on and so forth. And I played around, for example, my last round, we tracked that, right? And my tank player got more mage augments than I got on Rise. He had Leona, I had Rise, and I got a lot of tanky upgrades. I don't know if it's a bug. I don't know what's exactly going on there, but it is a bit of a shame. And so in general, I hope that they can kind of fix that, because that is going to be a big issue if you have actually just too much randomness in the augments. Then it doesn't really matter what you're picking, because your comp is going to be really strong one game and then completely useless next game, depending on the augments. Not necessarily something that I like, especially since they added rank to this mode. You do want a little bit of consistency. So that would be number 1. Number 2 is these plants. Of course, these plants cannot be hit by spells, which means it heavily favors anything that is a ranged character, which, you know, is a bit of an issue. Also, there is some rebalancing done with how some characters work, so you can definitely check that out. And yeah, I'm not 100% sure what to think of this mode. In the beginning, I was like I was enjoying it a lot. I was very addicted to it. But very quickly, I started to realize some things that I didn't like. So number 1, of course, is that the augments are just a little bit too random for me. Then the plants, again, they bias certain champions, which is also a little bit problematic, right? And then also, I find the item and gold acquisition system a little bit unintuitive. I find it weird that you start out with boot second, and generally I feel like in the beginning a lot of champions are just turbo useless and just tanks dominate, and then that shifts eventually, which isn't too horrible. And then the other thing, and this is a very important one, is you do realize how many champions just become kind of enabled by, for example, Conqueror. Conqueror is a very popular one, right? And how much more useful a champion is if it has Conqueror than it is if it doesn't, right? And then the other thing is that they have in the augments, they just have some things that are a little bit questionable. A good example would be they have Lethal Tempo and Conqueror pairing, which is completely useless on some Conqueror champions. And then on champions like Warwick or Zinza or stuff like that, it is ridiculously strong. So that also is a little weird and a little unbalanced, because that's of course going to favor and bias. Yeah, so these things I'm not the biggest fan of. The rest, generally, I like that there's a ranked mode. I like that, well, I like that you kind of just get ranked in there, and then the more you play, the higher you go, kind of thing. I definitely do like that. And I think there are some pretty cool augments that exist, but I think that this this mode is going to need a lot of balancing if they are intending to keep the mode in the game for long. And so I assume that they actually don't intend in keeping the game, the mode in the game. But then that would speak against them designing the whole ranked system and all of that. So I don't know. I'm a little confused on that one. I think there's some mechanics that are a little bit too just random and too casual, too arcadey for something that has a ranked mode. And I don't know. I also think some champions do some weird stuff. But in general, I think it's a very fun mode. Of course, it is just great to have a 2v2 mode in general, right? Anything that is 2-player versus 2 players is just great because, well, I think most of the time that's how the pairings work, is like you have 2 players or maybe you have 4 players playing together. And Summoner's Rift, not necessarily like solo duo ranked, not necessarily that much fun. I find that if I play duo queue, I reliably just get absolute dog water teammates. Where when I play solo queue, it's completely fine. So of course that takes a lot of fun away from duo queuing. And a 2v2 mode that has ranked in it as well. Dude, sign me up. Now, of course, one thing is I'm from EU, which you must have heard at this point, but I'm from EU, which means, of course, my ping is absolutely atrocious, 170 milliseconds, I think, of ping, which is definitely not the optimal, definitely not where you want to be, but it is where I am, and that means that, of course, I didn't really get to check out some of the more, let's say, skillful options, and I'm definitely looking forward to being able to kind of use those champions a little bit more, especially AD carries, something that I've kind of steered away from because of the ping. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to this whole thing, and this is also one of the reasons why we are watching an American person here, right? This is 70 milliseconds, much more playable ping. And so you can see, yeah, it just looks a little bit better than my games. There are some ridiculous combos. There are some ridiculous augments and combos, which is kind of annoying because, well, that means that this 2v2 mode, even though it has ranked, it's kind of like a super casual way to rank, right? Where it's like, it has too much TFT in it. You know what I mean? And it's kind of difficult. It's kind of difficult to exactly understand for me what the plan is for Riot Games with this game mode, because Riot Games is adding the rank mode. They are making the moves that make it look like their plan is to definitely keep this a competitive option. But then the augments are just so random, and there's some potential with combos that's completely insane. But then the next game you play the same combo and you get augments that are like turbo useless. You just lose versus the same champions. So that consistency I would love to see. By the way, beautiful save there in the end by Zwag, huh? As yeah, I mean, the combos that we've been seeing a lot dominate was Varus and Kled, I believe. That was a very good one. We saw Heimerdinger, Teemo, Shaco, Teemo, like all these champions together. They kind of sit in the middle of the zone and just kind of control it. Then Vayne and Kai'Sa seem to stand out as nasty as hell. And there seems to be, of course, the Braum and Naafiri and, you know, all these kind of combos. And, I mean, I'm sure that Sejuani has some combos as well. Darius Ilawi seems to be one. Generally, brawlers seem to be pretty good. I mean, who's surprised, right? Their archetype is kind of fighting perma. So anything 2v2. Mordekaiser Kha'Zix is a really cool combo. I mean, you guys might already see the angle there. That's a really fun one. Fiora Taric is a ridiculously busted combo. That one we have, I don't think we've lost on ever. That one is a really nasty one. And well, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of different combos that you can play. Morgana, also a character that seems to be paired a lot with other mages, right? Morgana hits her Q and then it's just all over. I've tried Lissandra. Lissandra also very strong, of course. And yeah, I'm personally, I'm definitely looking forward to being able to play this on like 30 ping instead of playing it on 170. I think in general there's good potential, but I really hope that Riot fixes whatever is going on with the augments, because I can't imagine that is intentional. I really can't. But maybe it is. Maybe I'm overreacting. Not entirely sure. Okay. So Zwag decided to spend his money on potions instead of spending it on a new item. He could have replaced his starting item here. This is something that, you know, people sometimes forget. Alright, so this one, for example, has a set boss, and the person that last hit set gets this big W AoE onto the enemy team. Ooh, massive damage as the MF is gonna flash forward. Ooh, Lissandra now closing the gap to the Xerath. Will hit the ultimate, will hit the all-in combo. The W. Ooh, the Q was failed, but oh, the MF ultimate will tag him there max range. As, yeah, both of them still have enough HP to go for another fight. Which means we're all, yeah, reselling and buying new items here. The new items that are in the shop, most of them are very gimmicky. But they do work with some augments that are crit based, mainly. And there's definitely some interesting stuff going on with you potentially unlocking, you know, certain combos, or just getting a lot of ability haste on some champions makes it ridiculous, like Brand being able to combo, kind of Q combo into himself. So here, this is one of the things that I wanted to talk about. This map is the Samira map. Samira is triggered on CC. And this obviously heavily biases any champion that has CC, as Samira will build up the streak, and then as you CC enemies, eventually she will start to attack the people that CC'd. And that is, of course, heavily biased towards CC champions, which makes champions like Mundo, for example, pretty sad to play, when he just gets completely destroyed by an Ornn in this map, and you just lose because it's this map. It's a bit sad. So definitely do keep that in mind, right? It's generally not too terrible though, because it does balance out some things, of course, right? The CC does balance out some things. And I understand the idea behind these champions, right? The idea behind the champions, these boss champions, is that they kind of balance out certain combos and help people that, for example, are playing tanks, right? and they have a lot of CC or stuff like that. And I think that seems to be the main situation of it, right? Is them just trying to kind of find a way to balance the game fairly. So yeah. With that said, I'm going to end the video here. There is more to this, so go over onto Zwag Zaroth's channel and check him out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one, and stay awesome.